Ugandans are hopeful will be the game changer of the economy. And these hopes are not unrealistic. They are quite realistic for everybody, and I believe with high chances of development do stand with the oil and gas sector in Uganda. And joining me to discuss more of this one, I do have Alex Byamukama, the National Content Officer, Contracts at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And
being here.
May you please say hello to the viewers.
Good morning, our viewers, and glad to be here to have a conversation with you.
Okay. Now, before we get deeper into understanding the oil and gas sector in Uganda, briefly for my viewers, what does the Petroleum Authority do in the country? What is the role of the Petroleum Authority in Uganda?
Thank you very much, Jerome, for that question. The Petroleum Authority of Uganda is a regulator for Uganda's oil and gas sector. It was established as a result of an Act of Parliament. Okay. That's the Petroleum Exploration, Development and Production Act of 2013. And its role really is to regulate Uganda's oil and gas sector.
Okay. And
specifically the upstream and the midstream. And upstream, we're talking about exploration, development and production aspects. And then the midstream, we're talking about gas conversion, refinery, transportation, and midstream storage. So those are the areas that we regulate as a sector, and we really work closely with so many agencies of government, including the National Environment Management Authority to tackle issues of environment, the media, the academia, and different stakeholders to make sure that we efficiently regulate this particular sector.
All right. Now, speaking of the sector, regulating the sector mainly, which opportunities are there for the Ugandans? Where are the benefits?
Thank you. Good question. Quite a number of benefits for the sector, like we've already said. It is growing, first of all, and maybe before we even look at the opportunities, it would be important to look at some of the key drivers for these opportunities.
Okay.
For starters, we have two flagship projects that are into development. That's the Kingfisher oil fields that are being taken forward by Sinop Uganda Limited. We also have Tilenga that is being taken forward by Total Energies. Those are the two flagship projects that are now into development. We have a lot of activities happening, construction, and then we have projects that are under exploration. That's Kanyotaba and Ngasa, taken forward by Oriental Petroleum as well as Ama Energy.
Okay. Now
then we also have a phase that that the ministry is still concluding, which is the second licensing round that you should probably have heard about.
Okay.
So we expect the sector to grow. So that gives you an insight on where we are going. And in terms of opportunities, if I could go straight to the opportunities, largely or broadly, the employment opportunities and provision of goods and services.
Okay.
When you talk about employment opportunities, you are talking about close to 160,000 employment opportunities for Ugandans. That's both direct, indirect, and induced. Okay, and most of these job opportunities are largely in the spheres of the technical aspects, the fields to do with welders, engineers, scaffolders, drivers. So that's where the bulk of the opportunities in those technical fields. That's where the bulk of the opportunities are, and companies continue to advertise for these opportunities in the media. We share the same on the PA website. We have a system that will probably talk about the National Oil and Gas Talent Register that gives visibility to Ugandans and also opportunities of these jobs. In terms of provisions of goods and services, like I mentioned, the two flagship projects of Tilenga and Kingfisher have progressed.
Okay.
And a number of contracts have been signed, what we call the major or tier 1 contracts. And there are different levels of contracting. Tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So we have those complex or specialized services that fall under tier 1 contracts. Those have been awarded. But also we have opportunities for Ugandan players or Ugandan companies under tier 2, and that's where we expect a lot of opportunities, because The scope under Tier 2 is not highly specialized and probably not as complex as Tier 1, but also in terms of financial affordability, it's something that most Ugandans can comfortably undertake. So these opportunities, again, are being advertised in the media. PAU does the same thing. Companies hold supply development workshops, and Ugandan companies have been participating. So we are looking at about 6 billion already contracts awarded. And,
those are for both Ugandans and foreigners, or basically Ugandan
contracts. And out of that, we look at about $1.7 billion that has been earmarked for our Ugandan companies. So those are opportunities that Ugandan companies really need to consider and protect.
Well, what you mentioned when you mentioned Kingfisher and Tilenga projects, of the two, which handles what? Because I would want to know between these two, why do we have two of these ones? Which is going to be a major focus of the two?
Thank you. Of course, both of them are a major focus at the moment. They are being operated by two different players, though in joint venture partnership. Like I mentioned, Kingfisher, that falls within Chikube and Hoima districts, is relatively smaller compared to Tilenga, and is being operated by Sino as the lead operator.
And Tilenga is for
Tilenga, that falls within Noya and Bulisa, is being operated by Total in joint venture, of course, with Sino and the Uganda National Oil Company.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, speaking of also the issue of us thriving, of the sector thriving, what laws or what are some of those key guidelines that have been set up to ensure that our oil and gas sector thrives, just like we're looking at the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, because now we want to see ourselves at that level already?
Thank you. Indeed, that's a very pertinent question, because people need to know what really empowers Ugandans to participate. We have a strong legal regime as a country, which we are really proud of. The government took time to put in place these laws. For starters, there's what we call the oil and gas policy that came into place in 2008. That gives a direction on how, as a country, we need to utilize our resources. But also from that, we also have the acts of Parliament, the Petroleum Exploration, Development and Production Act of 2013, as well as the Petroleum transmission, storage, refining and conversion, the one that takes care of the midstream, like I earlier mentioned. Now, those are acts of Parliament that were put in place in 2013. And those, of course, we have attendant regulations to those specific acts. And there are three. Under the midstream, we have one, which is the National Content Regulations for the midstream. And that particular piece of legislation clearly spells out how Ugandans can participate. But we also have what we call the host government agreement that also details on opportunities and how Ugandans can participate, basically national content like we normally talk about. And then when we look at the upstream, we have, again, I mentioned about the Act, but also we have attendant regulations. We have two specifically, and that is the general regulations and the national content regulations also that spell out and detail how Ugandans can participate. So those are very robust instruments that the PAU is relying on as a regulator, but also we are proud of government have put in place this strong regulation. So I usually encourage people to take time and read them, because there's a lot of information that people out there might not be aware of, and there's a lot of it in those regulations. They are available on the PA website. If you're able to go to the PA website, you can have an opportunity of downloading and getting access to them. Even the Ministry of Minerals and Energy Development also has those regulations and the pieces of act in their website.
Now, you've mentioned something to do with how Ugandans can participate, and that brings me to my question. How are Ugandans going to participate in this? Or are they already participating either way?
Oh, yes. Ugandans are already participating. Maybe if I could just give you a few statistics.
All right.
If you look at, for instance, employment, as at the end of June, we had about 1,300 people directly employed in the sector.
Okay.
And about 95% of those are Ugandans.
Both from the informal and formal sector?
Both from the licensees that I talked about, as well as the contractors.
Okay.
So those are the direct employment opportunities, and 95% of Ugandans are taking up those jobs. If you look at procurements, in the last about 5 years, we've had close to 90% of the total value of procurements going to Ugandan companies.
Okay.
So that tells you that Ugandan companies are participating. We also have a list of Ugandan companies that have actually participated. It's visible on our website. You can go look at it. It details the different companies that have participated. Now that goes ahead to show you that Ugandan companies are already participating. Now, straight to your question on
how Ugandans
can they participate. Yes, like I mentioned and we talked about, the legal regime that is in place gives them a foundation. We have about 16 services that are ring-fenced for only Ugandan companies under the national content regulations. 16 of them. They include logistics, they include accommodation, catering, environmental services, ICT, and the like, so many of them. So those services are only reserved for Ugandan companies.
Okay.
But also, the legal regime gives preference to Ugandan companies. So in any procurement that the licensees or any operator in the sector is undertaking, they have to give preference to a Ugandan company before they go to any other option, which of course is the JV or any other non-Ugandan company. So the legal regime gives them that foundation, and like I said, we need to take time and read about these laws. But also we have other regulatory tools that also enable Ugandans to participate. We have the National Supplier Database that was put in place in 2017 by the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. It's an online system, and that is a register for Ugandan companies that intend to participate in the sector. Okay. So Ugandans register, they're given visibility, and the law requires that for every company to participate or to supply goods and services in the sector, it has to be on the National Supply Database. So it's a requirement that for every company to be able to provide those services, they need to register. Okay. We also have the National Oil and Gas Talent Register, which now is essentially for people who are interested to get job opportunities in the sector. And that's also a tool, a platform that Ugandans can utilize to register. Companies, we have about 115 companies that are already recruiting of that system. We have over 300 job applications, rather advertisements that have been posted on that system, so giving you visibility on the opportunities available in the sector. So it's also a tool that Ugandans can utilize, register, gives you visibility, you're able to get quick information from the recruiters, and then you have a chance to be recruited as well.
Okay.
So those are some of the avenues, but also there's a lot of effort to disseminate information. For instance, we are here discussing about these things.
Yes, that's true.
The PA also undertakes different conferences and workshops. The IOCs, the licensees, the Totals, the CNOC, and the like are mandated to hold what we call the supply development workshops every quarter. So those are the different opportunities or channels for dissemination of information, which is very key for someone to participate in the sector. So these are things that we encourage Ugandans to look out for. But of course, you also need to take an effort. Get to visit the PA website, which has a lot of information on opportunities. Get these opportunities that are advertised in the media, both print and social media, and attend all these workshops. So there are different avenues that these opportunities, the information opportunities stream through that we need to take advantage of. All
right. And if you're still joining us and just joined in right now, we are discussing the oil and gas sector, but pretty much looking at how sustainable utilization of the oil and gas resources in Uganda will be very important for the economy, and how Ugandans can tap into these opportunities and how will they benefit. Just a quick one, earlier this year, the final investment decision was taken, and of which showing high signs that the oil and gas sector has already taken center stage. Now, Alex, before we get into a break, I would want to know how far with the progress of the oil and gas sector?
Thank you. We have greatly progressed.
Okay.
Like I earlier mentioned, if the flagship projects which are into development, major contracts were awarded.
Okay.
Construction is ongoing, and we expect our first oil to flow, like the minister earlier mentioned and announced, by 2025, early 2025, we'll have our first drop of oil flowing. Okay. So for those projects, a lot is already happening, a lot of construction and a lot of work. And like I mentioned earlier, of course, the other projects that I mentioned that are under exploration, those are the companies undertaking different studies, and we hope that they will be able to identify what we call commercially viable reserves.
Okay.
Now would enable them to move into the production phase and probably get the production licenses. But we also have under midstream the other projects, the ECOP, the East African Oil Crude Pipeline Project, that you probably are aware of.
Yes.
That also is progressing. Contracts were awarded. We know that the environmental social impact assessment was also approved.
Okay.
So a lot of work is happening. Construction is about to start. Compensation of the project affected persons is ongoing.
Okay.
So with that one, we also expect it to come on stream very soon. So there's been significant progress in terms of the sector. The other project, of course, we have in the midstream is the refinery, which also is being taken forward by government in partnership with the private investors. And that is at a level where government now is reviewing the front-end engineering design and will be able to approve it, and then it goes into the next phase.
Okay, and still with Alex after the break, but we're going to be looking at some of these other issues. One regarding the call to climate change, and then we're as well going to be looking at some of the Ugandans who are highly optimistic that if at all the oil and gas sector is the answer to our challenges, then that means even the rising fuel prices may be answered. How about that one? We shall be getting more of that as well, and clearly looking at how best can our local investors now tap into these opportunities with the fact that we are pushing for local content in the country, but then how possible will this be? Will it be a realistic approach through the oil and gas sector? Stick around with me. I'll be right back after the break to discuss more of this particular topic. Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Shashuri resimu y'ikirubuto cyawe mpora mpora yitungira resimu y'ikirubuto cyawe irizuba aha sentenje okutangira aha 14 na data y'umwaka guna yabusha rero ushashure mpora mpora no shashura umwaka gumwe nizishangum MTN service centers numbaduka ga mkopa.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and the ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Owa, obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Yamunange, anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumirwa omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kw'otadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya UTV channels ku ssimu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data.
UTV channels.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.